So I'm here with some wonderful people that not all of us at Grace Church or anyone else watching might know. So guys, can you just introduce yourself, tell us who you are, tell us where you'd usually be living, obviously we're in the UK right now, and what you'd be doing there.
So my name is Abby and this is my husband Sam.
Hello.
I'm actually Rebecca Chalmers' sister, her older sister. We're currently actually in Stoke-on-Trent. We're visiting family and friends here in the UK for 3 weeks. But we live in, or we have been living for the last 2.5 years in Phnom Penh, which is the capital of Cambodia.
And we have 2 children who are called Emily, who is 10, and Ruby, who is 7.
Also good name.
And we are also going to move to Siem Reap, which is in the northwest of Cambodia. We have a house there. So most of our stuff is in our new house, but not unpacked yet.
Right, okay.
So we're going to go back to Phnom Penh and then back up to Siem Reap.
I saw a photo of you guys moving and it wasn't your usual kind of like square rectangular truck. Like, did everything survive that long journey?
Amazingly, everything survived, and even the motorbike was on there.
Amazing.
And I'm not sure if the man rode on the top the whole way, perhaps, but they did get stopped by the police 12 times.
I'll make sure I put that picture in so people can see that afterwards, because it's really funny.
Yeah.
So you said you're in Stoke-on-Trent at the moment, and this is the first time as a family you've been back in how long now?
2.5 years.
Oh my goodness,
yeah.
That's so long. So like, apart from catching up with special people that you love, what are the things that you're like, we've got to do this while we're here? Things you might eat or places you might go?
Yeah. Eat strawberries. We've had so many strawberries because in Cambodia, 1 punnet of strawberries is $27.
Whoa. Brilliant.
It's a very big deal for us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And I'd say going to parks.
Okay.
Because in Cambodia, it's so hot, you can't hang around outside. And there aren't any like public spaces where you can go and play with your kids.
Right.
So going to the park, kids are on bikes, scooters is great.
Yeah, that's so true.
You talked about the move to Siem Reap, and we know from previous conversations that you guys are thinking about planning a church, and obviously now you're at the stage where you're not just thinking about it, you're going to be doing it. So just talk to us about kind of why, what prompted the decision to do that. Why Siem Reap, I guess?
When Sam and I first felt called to Cambodia, we spoke with the Christ Central team and specifically with Graham Pyman, and we spoke about our heart for Cambodia, and he said, oh, that's great, because we've been hoping to plant a church in Siem Reap for years, but so far we just haven't found anybody crazy enough to go and do it. And although it was very daunting, we both felt deeply in our heart it was what God wanted us to do. And it's always been the long aim, really, or the main goal of going to Cambodia. So yes, you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think so. Previously I was a church pastor in Macclesfield. Abby's got loads of gifting in all kinds of parts of church life. I think between us we have the experience and by God's grace some of the skills to start a little church in our house, with the aim of reaching out to Cambodians and expats. We want to have a dual language church, so everything will be in English with Khmer translation or vice versa. And I think there isn't another one of that in Siem Reap.
Right, okay.
So we really want to have a church that can say to Cambodians, to expats, we want to serve you, help you to find out about Jesus, be part of our new church family, grow together. So that's also part of our aim.
How do you feel like you've been preparing for that? What's sort of the last 2 years? Has it just been trying to find somewhere to live? Has it just been like, what sort of main things have taken up your time?
Learning the language.
Right. And that's Khmer, that's what you were saying?
Yeah, learning to speak, understand, but also read and write, which is still a journey that we're on, because it's a very difficult language to learn. Learning the culture, it's huge, really understanding how to share the gospel in the context of the Cambodian culture. It's very different to how you might share that here, and you really need to be smart about how you share it. So we've learned a huge amount about culture, and also we've attended the New Frontiers in church, in Phnom Penh, and that's a dual language church. And it's been a wonderful way for us to learn kind of what we should do, what really works, what we've seen them do that has been inspirational, and so that's been massively helpful for us. So we've also been learning to sing in Khmer. So I think we can sing 14 songs in worship songs in Khmer now.
Some are Western songs that are sung in Cambodia, but I think at least half are written by Cambodian Christians?
It kind of leads on to the next question I wanted to talk about, really, because historically, when people have left the UK or wherever in the West and gone abroad to church plant or to be on mission, there's been a lot of criticism, I'm talking kind of hundreds of years ago, about the way that we also brought a Western culture as though it was the same thing as bringing the gospel.
Yeah.
So as you're seeking to plant a church, it's great to hear you're talking about singing songs that Cambodian people have written, and being aware of the Cambodian culture. But like, what might look different for you guys? How you gather, when you gather, than perhaps a Grace Church Sunday morning, say?
So one thing to do with teaching the Bible. So in the UK, I would refer to things from British culture when I was preaching, TV shows or sport or Christian writers like C.S. Lewis. In Cambodia, those things make no sense. So we've both been reading about Cambodian culture history, and there's a really great book about the history of Christianity in Cambodia.
Right.
And it has so many stories about great Cambodian Christians, their everyday lives, their suffering for the gospel, their prayers, their endurance. And so I try and use just those stories and say, look, there are Christians from your culture, from the past, that have done these great things. We can learn from them. That's one thing. We have all of the songs that we've mentioned. And then Abby said that we go to a Khmer church in Phnom Penh now. And after church, they basically put out some mats on the floor with bowls of food, and everyone sits on the floor around these mats, and you have your little plate of rice, and then everyone passes around the chicken and the salad, and that's their way. So we will likewise, after our meetings in our house, same thing, we'll get on the floor and put out mats, and just so that for a Cambodian person it feels normal, but also for expats it feels like they're doing something a bit Khmer. And like many cultures, Cambodians, they just love sharing food, sitting around, eating. So that would definitely look a bit different to a typical Western church Sunday.
And also, most Cambodians are Buddhist, and they believe in karma.
Right.
They are very afraid of evil spirits, and they do certain rituals to keep evil spirits away. They're very family oriented as well.
Right.
And so to become a Christian brings shame on their families.
Right.
So as a church, although we are as well in the UK, we really have to be a family that protects and helps young and new Christians in order for them to actually be able to cope with the challenges that come, because their families will find that very difficult, and we've seen that happen, and we've seen how hard that is. So we really need to be prayer warriors for those families and for that person as well, as a family does. And also, it's an honour shame culture, so you've really got to explain the depth of the gospel and help people to really, we have to undo a mindset that's so deeply inside Cambodian people. So for example, this belief that if I do something good I'll get something good back, or if I do something bad I'll get something terrible back. It's so ingrained into their mentality. We really have to make it so clear what the gospel is, what grace is, what the message that Jesus Christ brings, because it's utterly different in every way to everything they've been taught from a very young age, or really from birth. So we've got to be incredibly careful with our teaching and make sure that the teaching is as crystal clear and consistent as it possibly can be, in order really to help people's mindsets change. And we've seen that happening in Phnom Penh, but it is a journey and it takes time.
That's amazing. It's also amazing the amount of noise coming from upstairs at the moment, in terms of all of the kids catching up with each other, which is great. Yeah, the Chalmers kids as well, having a good time. But there you go. So, I mean, the beauty of grace in terms of, I don't know, sometimes I feel like it's really easy to just say, it's under their favour.
Yes.
But is there perhaps a depth of beauty that is more profound, do you think, for Cambodians, because of that honour shame culture, because of the calmer understanding hold on, I don't have to do something, and yet I still get blessed, and I still...
Absolutely. And I think it's really helped me actually as a Christian myself, because in Cambodian culture, status is a key part of the honour shame culture. And if you lose your status at all, so if you bring shame on your family, they would likely shun you, and you are an outsider. and you can't get yourself back in. You have to have someone that has a role of authority in the family to then bring you back into your family. And that is a kind of a picture of the gospel.
I was just thinking,
in an honor shame culture kind of like framework, which is like our status goes from being like I wasn't in God's family to somebody with authority. Jesus can bring me from being an outsider back into God's family.
So I know that a lot of prayer and thought has gone into preparing for this move. Just be interested in what are kind of some of the big prayers that you've prayed that we could pray as well with you.
I said the other day to someone that we have both been on the UK side of the praying for guys that are overseas. Now that we are overseas, I can say it's really precious. It means so much to us. So thank you so much for your prayers. For me, I'd say the number one thing is we want to have a church of expats and of Cambodians. We have 4 expats, which is us 2 and our 2 children.
Yeah.
That's the team so far. So we're really trusting that as we go, God will help to connect us with some really great Cambodian believers who will really love the idea of what we're doing and will want to come alongside and help us and make sure that from really like the very go, it has that Cambodian Western together vibe and help us with the language. So like Abby said, we're still learning our Khmer. We couldn't do a whole service in Khmer. We need someone to help us with that for sure. So I'd say for me that's the number one thing that I'm really praying for, and that God will just give us the wisdom to know how to then build a sense of team with other expats and Cambodians, but definitely some really great Khmer Christians that might be with us on an interview one day with your church in the future.
That'd be awesome.
So yeah, that'd be great, please.
And also just for like people to become Christians, for those conversions, because you know it's about 2% of the population are Christians in Cambodia, possibly actually slightly less than that. It's really small. So we really want to see people come to know Jesus Christ and their lives to be transformed, and for them to know that He is the one true God, and for that to have an impact in the community in Siem Reap. So that's a big prayer.
That's exciting.
Because you know there is a spiritual battle going on there, you know, and certainly other faiths have got a very big stronghold on in that country, and so we do need to pray deeply in order to see those conversions happen.